Most people say that the throwing knives in the finals are trash, but they're just using them wrong. Hey guys, my name is Jonal, and today in this video I will be telling you how to start dominating the competition with the throwing knives, and really why so many people say they're dog shit, but they just don't really know how to use them. And that's what I hope with this video, to make these throwing knives more accessible for people, so people can also start having as much fun with them as I am. I'm primarily, a lot of time, I'm just playing with the throwing knives. They're just so fun, so satisfying. You don't really get any experience like this in the finals. But outside of that, if you like the video, you know the thing. You click the like button, you subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate it very much. But I'm not gonna keep you anymore. Let's just go straight to the video. No bullshit here. So, let's talk about the stats. You need to understand the stats to know how to dominate with the weapon. It's quite simple. It's 60 damage per body shots when your primary fire. So each knife with your primary fire, you do 60 damage per body. And a headshot is 90 damage. For your secondary fire, it's 140 to the body or 210 to a headshot. Very simple, straightforward. And the important part and the first point to kind of learn with this is using the correct fire mode at the correct time to really utilize the flexibility of this weapon. Your primary fire is your bread and butter. You will be using this like 90% of the time, and you're always just firing for that primary fire. Now, when you use your primary fire, you know this, you throw two knives with a very small delay in between. Each of them, as said, do 60 damage, meaning if you land both body shots, it's 120 damage. Now, headshots in the finals are not like most FPS games. In most FPS games, you double the damage, right? But in the final, it's a 50% damage increase, meaning a headshot only do 90 damage instead of a headshot doing 120 damage, which would be absolutely insane. So, 90 damage to a headshot per knife, 2 headshots, 108 damage, pretty good deal. Now, the reason we're using our primary fire is because the secondary fire is kind of trash. You click the button and 4 seconds later, you throw both knives at the same time together. You can't prime it or hold the secondary fire any longer. You cannot preemptively throw them either. So it's a hard 4 seconds. If you haven't aimed within those 4 seconds, if you can't see your target, if you wanted to throw a little bit earlier because you missed time, you can't. It's 4 seconds, you have to throw them, and that's it. Meaning it's kinda a gamble. If you fuck up the timing, if you miss or anything like that, your DPS just falls straight off a cliff, and you most likely die in that scenario. That's why we're using the primary fire almost always, because it's far more stable in DPS and fights. But understanding when to use a secondary fire is really important, because that's kind of what makes the difference between a good and a bad Defiance player. Now, you use it essentially in about 3 scenarios. You do a prime and peak. So this is essentially you're taking a zip line up to a team fight. You're jumping through the air again to a team fight or something like that. You're about to kind of run around the corner. You're chasing somebody. While you're chasing them, you don't really have line of sight. You prime the secondary fire, and as you peak, as you go up that zip line, you land into the team fight from a jump pad, or you run around the corner to get the guy. You throw the primary fire, your secondary fire, and you do 140 damage hit. If you missed, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like a gamble. These fly further with your secondary fire, and it does a little bit more damage. So it's just like a nice kind of prime that you can do. The other one is turning on an enemy. This is what I normally use it for. If you're being chased by a light player, for example, because you have your blinks equipped or whatever, you normally, if you are disengaging as light, it's another light player chasing you down. You can run around a corner and you can prime your secondary fire. As soon as they run around, bam! If you hit the headshot, they just get hit by 210 damage. If that's a light player that's chasing you, he gets one tapped. So you have this really nice, you can kind of prime it, and as people are picking into it, you just throw it out there, you hit 140 or you hit 210 damage, and it's really surprising, you just nuke them real fast. The last one is a stop, a defuse, a res, or assassinating a target by just doing this incredible surprising amount of damage. If you fire both of your primary fires, not just are you losing out on a little bit of damage, which in certain damage combos, which we will soon talk about, makes a difference. But also, you know, you're allowing the opponent to react by, you know, doing, you know, a secondary fire. You throw out that, you do 210 damage on that target. You know, that's a good chunk of their HP gone, and you can kind of move in. You can one-shot light players that are defusing objectives. You can do all this kind of stuff. And normally you're also playing, you know, the post plant in a way where you're not directly peeking the objective. You know, you're normally playing from a house, so you can, as soon as you hear the defuse, you can prime your secondary, you can dash in, you can throw it at the guy's head, and do 210 damage just out of nowhere, bursting them, getting them off the objective. So it's a really good kind of surprising weapon, but you always do it where you're playing with cover, you're not directly fighting right now, and then you can, where you can prime it safely, and then you can kind of peek into them, or they peek into you. That's normally when you want to use your secondary fire, but when you do, oh god, does it feel good. You can also try to snipe with it. Again, it flies a little bit further than your primary. So your secondary fire, right? You prime it, you can kind of throw it a little bit further. It flies a little bit straighter. But once again, that's mainly just for memes. The last one is, of course, you can style on people. Like dashing around, priming for 4 seconds while they're shooting at you just to hit a headshot. You know, it's just pure fuck you, essentially, to the enemy, which is really fun. Understanding your damage combos is really important when you're playing with these, because that's where you get all this surprise damage. The numbers of the throwing knives are really surprising because you can consistently know how much damage you've done, and you can land these crazy combos. So let's just go over them really quickly so you know all your damage combos for your primary fire first. So primary fire, once again, 60 to the body, 90 to the head. If you're playing against a light player, the combo is super simple. 2 body shots and a melee, 1 taps him. Or 1 headshot and a body shot's also kill him. It's normally that double body shot melee combo that just obliterates our light players. If you're facing a medium player, it's pretty simple. You do 4 to the body and then you do a melee. Pretty simple for a primary fire there. And if you're playing against a heavy, you're doing 6 body shots or you're doing 4 headshots. That's not really much of a damage combo, that's just you shooting the fat guy, right? So the most important ones for you to remember are 2 to the body and a melee for a light, or 4 body shots and a melee for a medium. Those are easy to remember combos, they're easy to hit, and you know them, and you can just do that blink melee combo and you can just nuke them off the map. For your secondary fire, again, it's 140 for body shots or 210 for a headshot. Light combos are pretty simple. It's a, you know, if you hit the body, you can do a secondary fire melee to the body, or you can just one tap him to the head. That's the easiest one. Just do that one. Just hit the headshot, right? If you're playing against a medium, it's 1 headshot and a melee. So if a medium is defusing, it's prime your secondary fire, go in there, hit the headshot, and then the melee, and you're good. When you're playing against a heavy, again, it becomes a little bit weird, but you need to first hit a headshot, then 2 primary fires to the body, and then a melee. And if you hit all of those, you burst him. Burst him in quotation mark, because that combo is like a 5-6 second combo, but that's just how it is to play against heavies. That's your damage combos. I think that the most important, and the one that I normally use, is just 2 body shots and a melee on a light, and 4 body shots and a melee on a medium. And if, hey man, if you hit some headshots in there, that's great. Your positioning is really important, because you're playing with, you know, you are not playing with your full automatic weapons. You're not playing, you know, with the sweaty MP5 or anything like that. So you want to play around cover constantly, right? When you fire your primary fire, you want to fire that and then hide and use cover, peek your cover, throw 2 knives again, and continue like that. In addition, you have to really remember the throwing knives sucks ass at fighting uphill battles, quite literally. If they are peeking tight holes or they are peeking through the roof of a building, you are just useless. There's not much you can do, and also you of course can't really do anything at range. You're not gonna be able to hit it. It's really hard. You're essentially just like guessing where they're gonna fly and where they're gonna land. Even if you know the arc and the travel time, it's just really hard to kind of hit stuff with the throwing knife because they fly so slowly. So you wanna play in a range where you can, with your dash, very quickly close the gap or very quickly disengage, depending on if you're fighting somebody that is using a close quarter weapon or a longer range weapon. But you never want to be caught out in the middle of nowhere. You always want to fight people in places where you can use corners in between your bursts if possible. And if not, you better have your dashes ready so you can dodge in the middle of nowhere. Because in a damage fight, if they have full auto weapons, in between your throws, you're gonna take so much damage. They will out damage you. That's just how it goes. You have to be playing these corners and obliterate them from there. Your loadout is therefore really important. You heard that I said that you should always have blinks ready. You should always be ready to kind of blink in and melee to finish off players. You should be able to blink away to disengage if they're using a flamethrower or something like that. And of course that means that it is actually mandatory if you're playing with throwing knives to have the blink or the kind of like the quick dash or whatever it's called equipped. That is a must. I also think that having the taser equipped is almost a must. It is really, really important. You can slow down people. You can force them to not ADS. So you can make it harder. You can cancel abilities. You can make them drop stuff. I think that having the taser equipped is almost also a must, because you will be playing essentially in effective taser range with the throwing knives. You're either really, really close, or you're still at a range where you're comfortable at using the taser. It slows them down, they can't ADS, they can't use abilities, so you can actually disable somebody for quite a long time and make it super easy for you to lay in those 180 damage primary fire double headshots. So that is, in my opinion, also essentially a must. Whatever you else equip of equipment, if you choose C4, pyro nades, whatever, that's kind of up to you. But I always go for a taser and a blink. That's kind of like a must in my book. And the last part to kind of round it off is almost the perfect one, and one of the most important ones: knowing your engagement range of weaknesses. Again, you can't fight longer ranges, so you gotta know very quickly in a fight, okay, what does he have? It's a medium player. Okay, he has an assault rifle. Okay, if I get really close to him without having to spend too many of my dashes, it can become really difficult for him to track me. Especially if I hit a taser, it's really difficult for him to track me. So closing that gap almost as far as you can, almost being just right in his face and just laying him down with throwing knives is really, really important. I've been experimenting, you kind of been seeing on that on the gameplay, the different ranges and how you can play it, but if you see somebody that has, an assault rifle, a medium range weapon, and one of the LMGs of the heavies, it's a really good idea to just close that gap as much as possible, pop a taser on him and just layer him up with your throwing knives. Are you playing against somebody that has a sword, a flamethrower, a shotgun, which are really hard for us to deal with, or anything like that, grenade launchers? You just want to keep that distance where, you want to keep as far as the distance as you can, where you can just layer them up with throwing knives, and kind of use, and that's where you want to use your blinks. You want to use your tasers if they're trying to, heavy charge you, anything like that, to slow them down. You want at that point, of course, kite them. And that's the beauty of this. This gun works good on really close ranges, but it also gives us enough flexibility to outrange shotguns, flamethrowers, melee weapons. There are one exception, and that's the heavies shotguns. Some of those shotguns can be really, really hard for us to deal with. And that's just because they are effective in essentially the same range. And normally, they do a lot of damage if they hit. If you face somebody with a shotgun, you gotta know that you just gotta play your cover and peek from your cover. You have blinks, you can actually blink in and out of cover. You want to just keep on moving and trying to predict when they're gonna shoot the shotgun, blink out of the way, throw your shurikens, and essentially use your movement as a light player to just outmaneuver their shots. That's kind of what you want to go for. Also remember, this last trick, if you're playing against somebody that has any other weapon, they have an SMG, they have an assault rifle, they have to reload at some point. You don't. That's the beauty and why the throwing knives are so OP. Not just the flexibility that you have burst combos, that you can, somebody's chasing you, you can pop, all of a sudden 210 damage headshots. Meaning if a light player is chasing you, you can one shot. If a medium player is chasing you, you can secondary fire a headshot melee combo and burst them, right? Not just that, but you don't have to reload ever. no matter how long the fight is, you can keep pumping out damage. They have to stop and reload at a certain point, which makes you just this incredibly high DPS. As long as you can stay alive and stay in the fight, you can just keep pumping damage and out DPS anyone on your team with good aim. That is what makes a throwing knife so strong. Not just the flexibility, not just the combos, not just the skill expression, but the fact that you don't have to reload. It makes you just so deadly. And that's why I'm addicted to playing with the throwing knife, and hopefully you will be too. If you like this video, hey, drop a like, comment down below if you can try a throwing knife, if you have, what you think, tips and tricks, all that good stuff, and subscribe to the channel. It's free. You can always unsubscribe if you don't want to. Anyway, hope you have a lovely holidays, and yeah, see you in the next one.